to be addressed if you have time. Yeah, Joseph sir, if you want to add anything, you can add.
On behalf of the entire GA of the cluster, I want to, at the very outset, thank Dr. GC. He's been someone we've been working very, very closely over the last close to about 20 years or so. Very well known, eminent gastroenterologist of India, a great academician and teacher, a great practitioner, and somebody who can also relate to the very fact that I felt that how can we ask him to talk to our medical representatives when he talks to much more, let's say, qualified people. But I think the greatness of Dr. Chaudhary is his ability to, let's say, address diverse groups of people. So even though we are not medical professionals, we are sales guys, but with some degree of, let's say, basic science understanding. So we asked, and Sir gladly agreed. And therefore, today we have the first session, and it's also something that's very pertinent to salespeople, because whenever I meet these young trainees, sir, we have a basic training program whenever they join us. So I make it a point to almost meet every single basic training program across the various businesses that I. So one of the things that I also tell them at the end of, let's say, half an hour, 45 minutes of interaction is that they need to take care of their health. They need to drink water and also eat home food in a timely manner as much as possible, because in the field, it's gut health can really go for a toss. So I'm sure that today's session of yours is going to be very, very useful, practically useful to all of us. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this for all of us, sir. Thank you.
Shall I start?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. You can start, sir. Voting, sir.
Okay. So I'll share a few slides. Okay, I have just 7 slides, and this is for all of you. A big welcome to this at 9:30 in the morning. But I'll tell you, one of the professions which I really admire is the pharmaceutical industry and its field force. I'm amazed at the amount of challenges which it poses for the field staff. I have known Joseph. Joseph said 20 years. I thought it was close to 30, but nevertheless, I've known him for a long time. And you can see for yourself that Joseph with time is getting younger by the day and being in the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, Abhijit, Vamsi, all of them are very dear old friends, and I have seen them for many, many years. Okay. Now, there are some tricks in the trade of the trade. Some people in the pharma industry remain healthy and they complete their families and they go on to live long lives. And many of them are in touch with me post-retirement also, which means, true making bridges, as human beings. Some people, they find it a big struggle and they're too stressed out and their health takes a beating. They develop diabetes, hypertension, heart disease at a young age. So how do you actually go through life in a way that you remain reasonably comfortable and healthy so that you are able to enjoy your peri-retirement or post-retirement life should be the whole focus of my talk. Okay, but this journey is important. After all of us work in order to earn some money. So here is what I have for you, a few slides. And these slides are, the first slide is medical sales personnel or field force. It's a very challenging job. If you look at a crowded train compartment or the crowded roads, you will find there are very few people wearing ties and, full sleeve shirts, even in the peak of heat. And I think the medical reps, poor people, they have to do all that, keep on a formal presence just to make themselves more presentable, which myself, I find it a big stress, but that's the requirement of the day. And one of the reasons why I never went to or thought of settling in Mumbai was in the Mumbai weather is so hot and humid. I was wondering how would I ever wear a full sleeve shirts and a tie there. But those are some of the challenges of the profession, which you and I can't change at the moment. Now, these are the special aspects of health which you need to be careful about. So the special issues are you people are expected to travel a lot. You have to meet a lot of people mainly doctors, but even others, the people who manage stores and your, what do you call it? The central, the bulk drug keepers.
Stockist and
Yeah, yeah. So all of them,
yeah.
you have to remain well dressed, you have to be presentable. There are long waits involved. So patience is one of the things which you are really tested on. I mean, I feel so sorry when I see some of the people waiting for almost 3 to 4 hours because I am seeing patients, and then their turn comes. But no matter how frustrated they are, when they come into my room, they flash a smile and they talk as though we are long lost friends. That's an art, but it must be weighing very heavily on you. I understand. There's also competition. So, like how much were your figures at the end of the month compared to the others? So, over a period of time, you learn some lessons about life. You can't win every time, every month, all the time. And, how do you actually balance taking once in a while a little setback? It's a very important aspect for human learning. And you're always under stress. When will this fellow Abhijit call and say ki last month ka figures kyun kam ho gaya and all that kind of a thing. But that's a part of life. We doctors go through stress, so do you people. It's of a different type. With regard to lifestyle, there are few issues which are particularly difficult for you. One is that your schedule is irregular. You don't always have the privilege of home meals, especially the lunch. You might start off from home with a breakfast, but I think most of the medical salespeople, they often travel 10 to 15 days in a month. So you're on trains, planes, hotels. That's a problem. So lack of home food, excess of hotel food. Now, when you are having long waiting times, it's natural you'll feel hungry, so you'll have some snacks. And while waiting, one of the major problems is many people do consume tobacco. So, smoking used to be very common. Nowadays, most hospitals have become non smoking, but probably they still go outside and have tea and a smoke. And in the evenings, when you have to let out your stress, many of them do take alcohol. Now, these all contribute negatively to health. So I'll tell you what to avoid in eating. So let's start with the negative, what to avoid. So, when I feel very hungry in my hospital, one of the common go-to things that I have is there is a nice samosa joint just outside the gate. So I get people, my staff to get me a few samosas. But it looks odd that only I'm having. So I get for all the staff and we convert it into a small party. But I generally try to see that it shouldn't be more than once in 2 weeks or so. Otherwise, it becomes too frequent. Remember that samosas are, in a way, Indian fast food. So they are actually deep fried and it's a lot of fat. And, it has a lot of trans fats because that same oil is used for doing different, batches of samosas, and that makes it particularly prone. It's more carbs and fat and very little of protein. The chai, which is so inviting and invigorating, I'm not against tea. I drink my tea as well. But the syrupy tea which you have, and some of my colleagues, they admit to having about 7 to 10 cups a day to keep themselves alert. That's a little too much. And apart from the tea, which causes gastric acid stimulation, it's the milk and the sugar, particularly the sugar. And therefore, you'll find a lot of people that they put on weight and they develop diabetes early because their sugar consumption through tea is pretty high. Nowadays, in order to compromise for not buying from small vendors, we often think of packaged fast foods. Now, chips and burgers and stuff like that. Last year, or was it year before last, the WHO has come out against fast foods because they actually are very harmful to health in the long term. So if you're giving fast foods to your children for tiffin also, be careful because it destroys your gut flora. And, it has got quite a few other bad acids, the fats, which actually impair gut health, and that's why, in fact, not just gut health, but coronary artery disease and cancers. Smoking, it's a very tempting thing to do once you have been a smoker. And if you're sitting idle and if a fellow offers you a cigarette, it's very tempting. But, make a conscious habit to stop that habit. That's really a bad habit. It grows gradually on you until a day comes when you can't do anything and you're in trouble. Alcohol, I think most people do take it even in parties. I know Abhijit doesn't drink, but the fact of the matter is that sometimes people use it as a stress buster. But interestingly, yesterday a patient came to me who had come, I think, about 7 years back to my colleague, Dr. Avnish Seth, who was here. And he had a fatty liver with a fibroscan score of 9.7. And yesterday his score had gone up to 21. And he didn't realize that with his daily consumption now, he has developed cirrhosis. So be careful with alcohol. If it is strictly once in a month, it's okay. But more than that, or maybe once in 2 weeks, but more than that, you should be careful because it tends to be addictive. So now I'll come to what to eat.
Sir, 1 second, sir. Sir, you're presenting anything, sir? Slides are because slides are not visible actually.
Oh, I thought I'm presenting.
No.
Okay, I'll go back. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought that it's visible.
I think your slides are not shared, so I was so sorry.
My mistake. I'm so sorry. Where is my Zoom link? Yeah. No, let me. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Good, you pointed it out. Yeah. So sorry. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'll just correct my position. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, we are now able to see the slides.
Yeah. So this was the first slide. A lot of crowd. People are traveling in Mumbai wearing ties and full sleeve shirts, waiting outside, endless waits outside the door of the doctor. Really painful. The only good thing is maybe the corridors are air conditioned in the Mumbai weather. These are the special issues I talked about. There's a lot of travel. You have to be well dressed, patient, competition and stress are high. And on the lifestyle side, I told you that your schedule is irregular. You usually are not there at home for lunch. Dinners are usually late. You have lack of home food, excess of hotel food, too much of snacks, tobacco, and alcohol. I hope you had listened to me. So therefore, I'm just going to this slide a little.
Yeah.
So these are the things which predispose to bad health for all of you, and you need to be careful about it. So I was talking about these foods. So samosas are very easy to get, but by and large, remember they are deep fried. It has a lot of trans fats. This cup of tea, which is very inviting, it has got a lot of sugar and milk in it. I think most Indians haven't yet adapted to green tea because in Japan, they would have 8 to 10 cups, but it's green tea. I guess it's probably better. But the sugar is the main killer, the sugar and milk. And fast foods, I just mentioned to you, burgers and chips, although the chances of infection are low, but they have a whole lot. So nowadays, there's a word that is being used, and I would encourage the staff to read it up, Google it. It's called ultra processed foods. And ultra processed foods are now being linked to a whole lot of diseases, including heart disease, fatty liver, diabetes, and what have you. So, therefore, try to avoid as much as possible of ultra processed foods or the fast foods. Smoking, I just mentioned that I think it's good that the rates are coming down, and probably your group, especially in the field staff, try to kick that habit. And it's a habit. You can't actually just keep it at a low level. So it's better to get rid of it. And alcohol, I think if you must have it, I just mentioned Abhijit doesn't drink at all. But if you must have it, it should be not more than once in couple of weeks, 2 weeks, fortnight, or at best once a week. The problem is that you people attend so many conferences and there are parties going around after each conference. You are tempted to have a drink, and therefore the frequency really goes up. And you don't really realize. You think, okay, from next month I'll cut down, but it doesn't happen. Okay. So this is the foods that I would recommend that you eat. So remember that when you eat something, you're eating because your glucose or energy levels are falling and you want to restore it, right? Now, that is done usually by sugars and carbohydrates. Now, you also need some degree of protein so that your health remains okay, and fiber. So for those of you who are not aware, you must understand a term called glycemic index. So glycemic index means that there are certain foods which do have carbohydrates. For example, this roasted gram, they have protein. And the good thing about them is that they release sugar very slowly so that there are no spikes. And therefore, the chances of developing diabetes and other things are actually low. So compared to this, if you were taking puffed rice, for example, so rice has a high glycemic index. Of course, the highest would be sugar or a chocolate bar, but that's actually unhealthy if you go on taking it for a long period of time. So you need uh, foods which release sugar slowly. Okay, so low glycemic index. So to me, I think grams are very good. In the south, ragi based foods are very good. I had a picture of ragi laddus. They're actually pretty good. Millets are very good. And if you have somebody at home, maybe a wife who's very interested in cooking, so these parathas basically, they are, there's a good part about it is that the keeping is long. So in the sense they remain okay for the whole day. Unlike, say, if you have something which tends to perish very easily. So if you have parathas made of sattu or millets or ragi, they are actually good and they would remain throughout the day till you come home. If at all you must carry something for immediate relief, do carry biscuits. But in that, I would say the arrowroot biscuits are still okay. Don't go in for these kind of cookies because cookies have far more sugar and chocolate. So that's the reason why your weight will go up, your sugar problems will arise, and so on and so forth. So these cookies are to be avoided. So I put all of them on the same slide, but these ones are to be avoided as much as possible. Fruits are good, but how do you carry fruits on the field? So what I do is I wrap 2 bananas in a tin foil and I put it in my laptop bag and I carry it. And that's a pretty easy lunch that I have sometimes in between patients. If you were to take an apple, that's also okay. You could take a whole apple. Please don't cut it like this. This is just a picture. But keep a whole apple, washed whole apple in a tin foil or a pear. And that's also pretty good and healthy. Okay. If you have a lunch box, then you can take cut fruits. But remember that cut fruits, after a while, they start becoming a little dull. The appearance doesn't have that freshness. So I think that if you carry fresh, it's better. Now, this is a part where I would request our senior bosses, Joseph and Abhijit, to invest a bit in their field force. It is usually good to carry a tiffin box. And you don't have to carry it with you when you're going into the doctor's chamber. You can park it outside or keep it at the security. But what is important about tiffin box, let me explain. The tiffin box should be made of stainless steel, okay, and not of plastic. This is very, very, very important because in my next lecture, I'll tell you why. One of the major health hazards which is now occurring in India, this was an article in Lancet, it's called actually microplastics and phthalates. So these usually come in through plastic. And in one point of time, we were all using a lot of plastic thinking it's very good. It doesn't get wet and so on and so forth. It's airtight. But phthalates is now emerged as one of the major health threats. Particularly 1/3 of phthalate poisonings are occurring in India. By the way, this is the Lancet paper. So I think it's good to go back to the old tiffin box, which is of either stainless steel and so on and so forth. So do it this way and try to use it in one which protects it from extremes of temperature. Because otherwise, if it's a very cold weather and you open it and you find it's very cold, you don't feel like eating it. So choose a good tiffin box. And doesn't matter how it looks when you're carrying it. Remember, you are meeting the doctor only in his chamber. The rest of the time is yours. And therefore, look after your comfort, your health, and your long-term health, not your short-term impression on the road. How does it matter whether the guard thinks you're a smart-looking guy or not? It doesn't, no? Basically, your target audience is the person you have gone to meet. So the tiffin carrier has to be good. The same thing applies to carrying water. So, in our type of climate, it's very hot and you need to keep yourself adequately hydrated. One of the questions you have posed is how much water to drink. There's no absolute answer. So the British answer is 2 to 5 liters, but that's the British answer. In India, it depends where you're working. If you're working in Tuticorin in the south, it might actually be even 7 to 10 liters. If you're working in a place like Srinagar, it might be just about 1.5 liters. It depends on where you're working and what is the weather. The important message again is the most handy things to do is carry plastic bottles. Plastic bottles is absolute no-no now by health experts. In fact, we had a comment the other day in a conference where there were plastic bottles on the table. And, plastics has come in for severe criticism, not because that they're not, they don't get destroyed and all that. That's the environment part of it, which is true. But microplastics is emerging as a very, very big threat. And therefore, it's better to protect yourself and your next generation. So I think these kind of stainless steel water bottles are really good. If suppose you can afford it and you have a two-wheeler and there is space, I would say on a very hot day, take 2 bottles, water bottles full, because each one will have a capacity of only 750 ml or so. Okay. And your water requirement may be more. Try not to drink from plastic bottles or buy plastic bottles. Interestingly, the plastic bottles which are heated, and they're out in the open, or they're kept in the car or in your kitty in the two-wheeler, the exuding of phthalates is actually more, and therefore you need to be careful. If it comes to Tetra packs, I think it's okay. And of the Tetra packs, I would suggest that this buttermilk is probably the best and safest. Okay. If you can get green coconut, it's fine, but it's not a privilege that most people have. So here again, coconut water in a Tetra pack is not bad. Chach in a Tetra pack is okay. Lassi is once in a while because lassi is loaded with sugar. So you have to be sugar or sweeteners. So I would say don't make this a regular habit. Prefer these two. Okay. And these are no-nos. So, by and large, too much of cola drinks and other bottled cold drinks. So they have empty calories. So there is a lot of chemicals which are sweeteners along with a lot of other things, So these are the things which once in a while in a party, it's okay, but, don't make it into a habit. Last but not the least, most of these tips I have given in a book called Health Adda. This is for common health, and I would think that you can actually pick up your copy. It's on Amazon, but one of the companies where I also give a talk to the medical force, I think they distributed it to their field force and they're very happy about it. So these are some simple health tips which I had for you. When to have breakfast, so on and so on, all that. And one more thing, when you come home and you're starving and if dinner is your main meal of the day, try to finish or, stop when your stomach is only 3/4 full. Don't have a full dinner, fried food, everything at 11 o'clock in the night or 10:30, then go to bed. That's a sure recipe for putting on weight as well as developing metabolic syndrome subsequently. That's, obesity, fatty liver, and so on and so forth. So as far as possible, if you come home a bit early, have an early snack or an early dinner. And if your dinner is late because you want to sit with the rest of your family, fair enough. But don't keep your family also starving till 10:30 so that, all of you can have dinner together. It's actually unhealthy practice. But because of the necessity of work, we have to modify. So that's all that I had to share. I'll be happy to take questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. GC. I think it's been a very short but very, very crisp and I think a lot of practical pointers of starting with how medical representatives or a pharma salesperson's day starts, the way they travel and the challenges that they encounter. And within that, I'm saying practical tips on how they should take care of particularly their gut health. Yeah. Abhijit or Vamsi, anything that you guys want to add or...
Yes, sir. Actually, all the questions actually we shared with GC sir, but all the questions are answered. There is one question, sir, which I request GC sir's opinion on that. Sir, generally we have a lot of irregular timings of food, lot of stress, on the go street foods, all those things. So this causes a lot of time like IBS related problems to all the field workers. So
So
does
two
probiotics
things.
have any role in this? Is what I want to know.
So two things. Let me tell you. One, I didn't discuss the stress part much today because I thought it will be gut health primarily. But two things that you can do. One is you have a lot of travel time. And during traveling, you're all the time thinking negative thoughts that, whom will I meet? How will he talk? How will I actually prepare to introduce myself? How will I convince him to write my prescription? How are the sales doing in my area? Now listen, if you go on thinking those thoughts, it's not going to naturally translate into better work performance. So what I would suggest is, and I've often tried doing it, so in a long car ride or a whatever ride, either you try deep breathing and meditation. That's a good time for you to actually meditate. And if you don't know how to meditate, or if suppose you're driving a two-wheeler and you can't afford to do that, then try and look around and look at nature. I don't know how many of you follow me on Facebook. Every now and then I post pictures of trees with flowers.
Yes, sir.
And I think that it's so funny. Nature has it all there for you, but most people don't have the time to stop and see and enjoy the beauty. That takes a good bit of stress away from you. And the other part I'll tell you is that, in terms of if you're not riding or driving, it's good to put earplugs and to put music in the car or the system. And there is a huge amount of music to choose from. So you can choose either a soft instrumental music or some old Hindi songs, whichever you like. But the fact is that, music is another very good soother. It, reduces your stress levels. And remember, there's one thing, it's called rumination. Just thinking that same thought in circles and circles does not translate into better outcomes and performance. And that becomes a negative habit. And that actually increases your cortisol and adrenaline levels and stress levels. And that is one thing that you should learn how not to do. One more last point I'll say, while you're waiting outside the chamber, it's a painful wait. The doctor is not seeing you because the door is closed, right? And he's inside. Actually, that's a very good time for many of you to do a little bit of yoga poses. I'm not talking about doing Surya Namaskar on the floor. Obviously, people will laugh at you. But, there are ways in which you straighten your spine, raise your hands up like this, and do a full stretch from the leg above, do a little bit of side bending. So, these things you can do either there or at the parking lot, but don't neglect your body. Don't say that I'll come home and do, and I need 2 hours to go to the gym. Stupid. Actually, my book has a chapter called NEAT. NEAT means non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So those who are able to combine it with their day-to-day activities are usually better off than those who want scheduled time to go to a gym. So these two things I would add to your stress and physical health management. Any questions? I would love to take them.
Yeah.
AK?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Akanksha here.
Hi, Akanksha.
So there is one more practical what we see on field is many people leave their homes around 9:30, 10 a.m. with heavy breakfast, which is as good as lunch. And then directly they would have dinner once they are home, whatever, 9 or 10 p.m. And in between, they don't have any meals. Or if at all, because it's practically impossible to stay without meal for such a long time, then typically during 6 o'clock, they will have in Mumbai, of course, a vada pav, or in Delhi, they will have a samosa or something. Is it advisable or not?
See, if you're feeling hungry, you'll have to fill your stomach. Okay. So if I were going to a place which has vada pav, I would much rather, maybe that's my bias, but I would go to a South Indian joint and have a plate of fresh idli if fresh idli is available. Okay. Because vada pav, I'll tell you, the pav part is a bit rich, and that's got a lot of oil in it. So maybe once a week it's okay, but I won't make it into a daily habit at working hours. In the north, I talked about samosas. So again, the problem is that samosa is a deep fried thing, just like, your vada pav. So the pav is also fairly fried, with a lot of oil. So I would say try and avoid the ones which have got too much of oil and deep frying in it, especially for mass consumption, because there you're trans fats go up. You know what are trans fats? So fats are a type of fats which get converted from cis to trans, especially in commercial places where you use the same oil for heating and reheating and reheating. In fact, there's a very interesting article in my book. If you were to get samosas and it's the fresh batch which is coming out from the kadai, it's probably good. It's less of trans fats. But if it's the third, then your trans fats levels go really high. And that's the one which is most damaging to the heart.
And what about those people, sir, who are going completely without meal during that 9:30, 10 a.m. lunch and directly 9:30, 10 p.m. Dinner, and in between they are not having anything?
I think
Is
that
it
is
wise
not
or advisable?
it is not advisable. I'll tell you why. It's not advisable because, if you have a very long period where you're without food, they usually tend to overeat during dinner. And overeating at dinner, especially if it's a late dinner and after that going to bed early, that is actually a pretty bad thing for the health. So I would say have something. Maybe you can take an apple and a pear wrapped in a tin foil or whatever, but don't go completely hungry from morning till evening because you're then bound to eat more at dinner.
I've also shared this with every single basic training program. I've told people that please do take a break. There's no harm in taking a break. The call can wait. You can miss one call. You can maybe miss a doctor. That's fine. But please try and take a break. Eat something, preferably a home food. Even if you are able to bring something in a small dabba, khichdi or a paratha, as Dr. GC had mentioned, or a fruit. You must definitely have something around midday or late afternoon before you have the tendency is also to eat a heavy breakfast and then a very late heavy dinner, which is actually not good. So I would fully agree with Dr. GC saying that you must definitely take something late afternoon. It could be anything. And I've also told that you can managers will not hold you, let's say, in this one for taking a break. Please do take a break. The other thing is also the tendency to carry water. So if you're just carrying one water bottle, please try and fill it with fresh water wherever it is possible. But hydration is also something very, very important. And I think the third thing which Dr. GC mentioned is drinking something like a probiotic drink like chas, which is far, far better than drinking a milk-based product directly.
Or a sugary drink.
Yeah, or a sugary drink like a lassi.
Yeah, so just to pick up on that, it's a very good idea, Joseph. We have been experimenting with a whole lot of so-called healthy food made tasty. Okay, and you mentioned khichdi, and I would fully agree with you. Nowadays, now you can do what is called as a millet khichdi, and there are 6 types of millets, and you can spice it any way you want. You put a lot of coriander and all that, and I think it's very tasty. Even if it's in a small bowl. Yeah.
No, I think you had mentioned about millets in the first few slides.
But millet made as khichdi can be very good.
So millet khichdi, millet idli, millet dosa, millet upma. I think means I'm saying we must try and substitute both plain rice and wheat as much as possible. Try and balance it at least a couple of times in a week with millet or with other grains. Or if you have to use wheat at home, please also try and use multigrain atta or anything else just instead of wheat. So I think those are things that can be done at home. But to answer that question, I think we must definitely take a break and try and eat something. The tendency also is to drink a lot of tea and have smoke in between. I think that's something that I see a little less in the younger generation. It's people don't smoke as much as I used to see about 15, 20 years back. It's still practice mostly that we see in West Bengal and East in general. But smoking is clearly. And the last thing I think which Dr. GC mentioned is about restraining or having a very, very good control over how much to drink. Ideally, we should not drink, but there's also a tendency to drink because when we come to meetings or conferences, then at the night there is means you tend to sit and then have a So that's also something that we must try. The whole idea is to have a balance. And I also just want to add on to what Dr. GC mentioned about yoga poses. I think this is also some kind of rotation, some kind of sitting exercises is very, very important, because either we are on the two-wheeler, or then we keep tending to sit for a long time in the waiting room of a doctor, or we stand. So I think some kind of stretches in between is also something, a very, very practical idea of keeping your, let's say, musculoskeletal health also in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Vamsi, any other thing that we want to ask, or anyone else on the call, anyone from head office that you guys want to ask that we've missed out?
So there is one more thing, 2-3 questions combined. I'm just
Yeah.
putting here. People have asked, are there any supplements or medications which can help us to maintain our gut health during the field?
So I'll pass that question on to your spouses. Okay, I'll tell you what is the latest on gut health in terms of. So I think there was a question regarding should we take a probiotic on a regular basis. There was one question of that type. Okay, so probiotics, na, see, you're in the pharma business, and you know that it's got the market size is about so many million rupees or whatever, and you want to feed into the system. I mean, I would say you don't do it yourself. Yeah, you're going to make money by other people paying, but do it naturally. And the natural way of improving your gut health, there's a article in this book, so which says that it's keeping the garden of your gut healthy. And if you have multiple colored food items, colored means not artificially colored, but naturally colored. So a little bit of carrot, a little bit of red pepper, a little bit of peas, which is green, so you have a combination. There was an article I was reading today that there's this girl in Bombay, and she makes sure every meal of hers has 12 different sources of different colors. So if you are able to do that, you are actually going to get a good variety of healthy gut flora, and that is the best way to grow a garden. So in your garden, if you have multiple types of seasonal flowers, it looks really nice and colorful. If it's only one type, it's not always supposed to be very healthy. It looks too manicured. So try doing that. And rest of it, yes, you can take any of these probiotics, but the natural ones are very good, as Mr. Joseph said. And now even your, say, Mother Dairy and quite a few of these companies, they are coming out with lactose-free yogurt with probiotics, or, probiotic dahi, which if you want to take, it's fine. But I think it's a waste of money. But if you like it that way, no harm.
Okay. Sir, is anything? There's a lot of also talk about proteins nowadays, intake of proper proteins. So, any thoughts on that for the field guys?
So, I think that the natural sources of protein are pretty good. Dal, lentils, legumes, dahi, milk, if you prefer, paneer, they're all good. If you are soya is very good. So, in fact, I would encourage you people to add soya chunks, and that's pretty tasty as well. On the other side, you have fish, chicken, mutton, and eggs, of course. Eggs are okay. With regard to chicken and mutton, I think that unless once in a while you have it, it's fine, but don't make it a daily habit. I'll tell you a very interesting story very shortly. With regard to fish, it's generally okay. I mean, not because I'm a Bengali, but the fact is that it's white meat, and so it's okay. But try not to have those exotic ones like salmon and all, because salmon doesn't grow in India, around India. So it's imported from Norway, or it's imported from East China Sea and all that. But the fact of the matter is, coming to chicken, there's a lady who came the other day. She's one of those very hectic party goers, and every now and then after a party, she falls sick, and she was accompanied by her mother. So she at the end asked me, can I have chicken? I said, yeah. And the mother said, please, please, please tell her not to. I said, why? She says, I run one of the largest poultries in NCR, and that's my business, and I know my business. And I can tell you that the chicken that I serve others are actually very bad for health, because all of them get hormones and certain chemicals to make them grow, I mean, in the sense they need more muscles. and therefore they're actually pretty bad for health, and antibiotics. So I would say that try and be natural as far as possible, but it's not a no in the sense once in a while it's okay, but don't make it too frequent.
Yeah.
I have one more question, sir.
Yes, please.
Many, lot of our field people will be actually working in the field. We have a lot of irregular food, but nowadays this young generation is trying this intermittent fasting for 12 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours. So if they want to do that intermittent fasting, how many hours is good for them, sir?
So, there are three types of intermittent fasting. It's called 16-8 is one of them. The other
Yes,
is
sir.
5-2 and the other is AD, alternate day. So most people would prefer the 16-8. Now
Yes,
in
sir.
16-8, what happens is that your 8-hour eating window either starts from the morning, that's breakfast, and then finishes at 6 or 5. That means you have to skip your late dinner. The other method is you skip your breakfast and then you have your lunch and your dinner. Now, for the type of people like you who are in the field, I would strongly advise you not to skip your breakfast. I'll tell you why, because I have seen it in my practice also. I've done intermittent fasting. So, when I skip my breakfast, I tend to be a little irritable and snappy with patients. So, I think that if you're generally your glucose levels and you're generally relaxed, you are able to deal better. You're not very irritable and snappy. So, if at all you want, you can skip your dinner for some time. But at the end of an exhausting day, it becomes difficult. So, instead of a 16-8, you can make it a 14-8 if you want, or 14-10, and therefore have a very early dinner as soon as you come home, maybe 6-6:30. But otherwise, intermittent fasting is generally very good, both for losing weight as well as for overall metabolic health.
Thank you, sir. So,
Yeah.
I think those are all the questions, sir. Joseph, sir.
Yeah. No, I think I'm just quickly asking, is there anything else that we see on the chat box or uh, anyone else from the head office that we... Right. But friends, I think this has been a very, very, let's say, informative, loaded with a lot of practical pointers of how we can take care of our own health during the, let's say, so-called challenging field work that we do day in and day out. But I think it's a choice that while we have a job to do, but we also have a body to take care of. Because I think if we are not healthy, then we will not be able to really do that job very productively for a very long time. So I think investing on your health is equally important as investing in your own career and in your sales performance. And gut health or taking care of your food, diet, and exercise is something very, very important. I think we'll have to figure out ways to do this. And clearly, as a responsible organization, as an employers, we also try and encourage people to adopt as much healthy lifestyle as possible. And even if that needs a little bit of time out of your professional work, I think please do that. Do take that time out and have a proper meal, have a good balanced meal, try and do some stretches. And also the last thing is, I keep telling, as I tell in my basic training program, is to also to drive very, very safely. Uh, we will try and touch on this safety aspect maybe in another meeting, but this is also something, sir, that I keep telling
Absolutely.
them that almost all of them drive a two-wheeler, and unfortunately we've seen casualties happening. So I tell them that even if you have to miss a call or let's say not keep a deadline, that's fine, but you have to drive safely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Abhijit, we can conclude if we are...
Vamsi?
So firstly, sir, on behalf of Solaris, we give you sincere thanks, sir. This is, sir, for taking your time, understanding our role and responsibilities, and then giving us a proper guidance, what to do and what not to do. So we sincerely thank for your guidance and support. And whenever required, we also reach you personally, either through Facebook or WhatsApp. Thanks for your time, doctor. And also, I also thank for all the team who shown this enthusiasm to join and give your valuable questions and feedback on the sessions. Thanks, Joseph sir. Thanks, Abhijit sir, as well as Akanksha. Thanks.
Thank you, all of you, and
Thank you.
thank you all the people who joined in. Wish you all good health.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Yeah. Bye, sir.
Thanks. We can, I think, AK, we can close this. Thank you, sir, once again.